We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk 1180, 1230 KGEO, and 1410 KERI. We're syndicated, Clay.
We are in Kern County. We're the only syndicated show.
That's right. 3 out of 3. Yeah. We're going to continue our show focusing on education. Our second guest in studio is the founder and president of Stockdale Learning Center, Andrew Burling. Andrew, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Barling. Yes.
I knew I was going to butcher
That's
it.
okay.
Barling, B-A-R-L-I-N-G.
At least you didn't say darling or...
Well, I could have said darling, but this is Bakersfield.
This is Bakersfield. Oh, heck,
yeah, what the heck.
Yeah. And I'm director.
Yeah, director and the founder, though, right?
Yeah, but I'm not president.
Not president? You're not the prez?
No, I don't want that responsibility. A director's enough.
Oh, okay. Okay, I can understand
also,
it.
And also, you're the professor or the teacher.
I'm even the janitor over there.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
I wear a lot of hats.
Yeah. So tell us about Stockdale Learning Center.
Stockdale Learning Center is a state-certified professional private educational therapy intervention and educational advocacy clinic designed basically to do the diagnostic assessment, clinical intervention, and educational planning for students with basically, they're highly intelligent but low-performing academically. To determine if they have one of the most misunderstood and misdiagnosed of all the disabilities. That actually, it's a learning difference, more than a disability, but like dyslexia, dyscalculia, attention deficit disorders, Asperger's syndrome, and related behavioral disorders. Now,
I know we're not going to do an information thing on the center, but let's talk a little bit about the center before we get into what we're doing over there.
Sure.
So you do a diagnostic assessment, achievement training, that type of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's for people of any age.
5 years old and up.
Okay. And you do have parent workshops.
As needed, yes.
Okay.
And a support group, monthly support group.
Yeah.
That's overseen by the CHAD organization, Children and Adults with Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder.
God, where were you when I had... I've got a son that's attention deficit. He's 29 now.
I've been here nearly 30 years.
Pardon me?
I've been doing my service here nearly 30 years.
Really? I wish I would have known about you years ago.
I'm least known of anybody around
because
here, I think.
Why is it so misdiagnosed?
I think because there's just not a lot of publicity and known research about it. But actually, learning disabilities and dyslexia, ADHD is one of the most researched of all the brain disabilities or disorders. As much so, if not more, than even autism.
Wow.
It seems like every few years there's a new problem with kids.
And it goes in waves.
Yes.
When I started the program back in 1984 in the 90s, what was the big disability? Dyslexia.
Right.
Then it changed to attention deficit disorder with learning disabilities. Now what do we hear the last decade and now? Autism. So the pendulum swings.
Sure. Now, one thing you mentioned, these kids are high intelligent, low performing.
Yes.
Explain that.
They have good intelligence, and that's the confusion with it. How can you have a really high, even a gifted, gate level intellectual child or even adult that's not reading?
You know, it's interesting. My son, my youngest that I had the problem with, he was oxygen deprived at birth. He was stuck coming out of the channel or the canal for about 6 minutes.
Right.
But his IQ is around 145. But he has no ability to do. He's got very little common sense. You know, so he's high functioning as far as the intellect, but as far as common sense or anything, he just doesn't have it.
A common thread with these children and adults is not so much not common sense, but smartness. And I like the definition between intelligence and smartness. Intelligence is our God-given ability to reason. Smartness is using that. And these children need to be taught how to use their intelligence for smartness. They're not always smart. And if you have a learning disabled or ADHD child, you usually have one or both of the parents that are the same way, too.
Right. Let me explain to you why I use the term common sense. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Little things like I can remember standing watching him next to a stove. Okay.
Yeah.
And he had a paper towel hanging there, And I'm just watching him, and I thought to myself, he's trying to boil water. I bet you he burns that paper towel and lights the thing on fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And watching him go through the procedure, the way he was doing it, there was no question about the fact he was ultimately going to set that thing on
So
fire.
you knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, anybody with the common sense to see the scenario knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yet he couldn't put it together.
Yeah.
Even though he's extremely intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Is that common with kids like that?
Yes. Very much so.
Okay.
And what happens to these children in the long run? They drop out of school. If they drop out of school, then they get involved in juvenile gangs, and they are down the tubes the rest of their life.
Sure.
But they don't have to end up that way. That's the hope with them. With a good diagnosis and intervention, they can get their lives turned around.
It seems to me that a lot of people take their kids to the doctor's office, and the first thing the doctor does is prescribe some kind of medication.
Mm-hmm.
And is that good or bad?
It's good and bad, Clay, because being a cognitive neurological disorder, sometimes medication is necessary, but it shouldn't be always the first order of business, nor should it be the sole order of business. When you deal with this type of disability, a multidisciplinary or multifaceted approach is necessary. Medication for one, sometimes like in what I do, educational therapy. Another one would be family therapy, social skills training, a lot of different things. We have to get a lot of professionals involved with these kids. Oftentimes, medication, though, is the sole and the only, and these kids grow up thinking that they're bad because all they need is just drugs.
Sure.
But the other thing, too, these kind of drugs are not gateway drugs necessarily. They're good drugs. It's just the perception and the long-term effects and misuse can lead to other kinds of gateway drugs, illicit drugs and all.
Our in-studio guest, Andrew Barling, founder of Stockdale Learning Center.
So, Andrew, do you have a peer group that you're working with in town that refer you business?
No.
And why is that? It seems like you have so much to offer.
Clay, I wonder that too. I should. I'm with my accrediting agency called the Association of Educational Therapists. There's probably about 5 or 6 members, but I still have the only educational therapy private practice in the Valley.
The only one.
And I should have more peers, but I don't.
I'll give you a theory on that.
Sure.
Having gone through the system with my son.
Please.
It's amazing how many people in the medical profession misdiagnose this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We had 3 or 4 people, professionals at this, psychiatrists, psychologists, be way off base on this. I was really, really surprised. I mean, we got all kinds of different responses as to what the problem was.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, when it was diagnosed, the person who diagnosed it told me, if you don't medicate him, he will self-medicate.
That happens.
Which is exactly what happened.
Because these children need their brains need the stimulation,
right?
But they don't always need it medically.
Yeah,
they can get, and unfortunately they do get it in other ways.
Sure,
it can be illicit, can be illegal,
mm-hmm.
or can be just from reading or listening to good music.
Yeah, well, and little things like I used to buy him cigarettes all the time because something in the nicotine actually helps this kind of behavior.
Yes,
so
it does. I
was getting all kinds of criticism from friends of mine. Here it is, you're buying your 19-year-old cigarettes. Well, it's better than having him go off the deep end.
Oh yeah, and I know I've worked with teenagers and adults that tell me the same thing.
Sure.
Buying cigarettes is a lot cheaper than buying methylphenidate.
Yeah.
Or Adderall.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing would be caffeine. Is good for these kids too.
Yeah. Now, and as far as the drugs, it's funny. He's now in another country, and he's
mm-hmm.
getting a little better help because they have a socialized system there, which unfortunately is working. But
in some cases,
in some cases, this is one case where it does work much better than our system does, unfortunately. But anyways, I was talking to him the other day, and he told me, he says, frankly, he said, I know more about what drugs I need than these guys do.
Mm-hmm.
Because he knows what drugs will make him feel better.
Yes.
But yet he doesn't know when to quit. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But rather than taking,
because these kids are easily addicted.
yes, rather than having
Yeah.
Drugs through a normal channel through a psychiatrist, he's trying to do it on his own and self-medicate himself to feel better.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's frightening.
Isn't it though?
Andrew, you brought a guest with you today, and we haven't heard from him or her, him, I presume, yet.
Him.
His name is Nick. Tell us about Nick.
Nick is my certified therapy dog, and I use him at my clinic because research has shown that children really relate well to animals, especially dogs. And so I use him to help calm down these kids. Sometimes we'll get up on the couch and read a book together or do homework together, or sometimes these kids just need time to unload and just have kind of a neutral party just to talk to, and they'll talk to a dog. I'm not a psychiatrist or anything, but having a little Cavalier King Charles dog really works wonders, and sometimes he'll sit at their feet, and I get more out of these children probably within 15 to 20 minutes having them work with Nikki than I would otherwise.
Wow.
It just makes my clinic more homey. Also.
Sure. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk 1180.